Hey guys, DemonDriver here, and in this video I'm going to show you how I make from nothing, from pieces of styrofoam, carbon fiber, spackle, basswood and balsa wood, how I make the handmade scratch-built tail of our Emirates 777-9X with our Emirates livery, the red, black, and green of the United Arab Emirates, how I get this all done so the tail is ready to be mounted to my giant Emirates 777-9X. We're going to make this all by hand, no 3D printers needed. We're going to do this all by hand the old-fashioned way, which is real scratch building, and that's what we're going to do in this video. Alright, so sit back, relax, I'm going to show you how this is done. Alright guys, thank you for watching, thanks for joining me. Let's get down to work. Okay guys, let me show you the components that make up the Emirates 777-9X tail. We obviously have, the first thing you look at is the actual styrofoam main tail itself, main stabilizer, or vertical stabilizer, the rudder, the tail, and it's in two halves, two hot wired halves, an asymmetrical airfoil, which is, it's the same on the right, on the left, exactly the same, and then we have our balsa rudder portion. This is the balsa rudder portion. As you can see, it'll fit there. And this is a piece of hard basswood. The hinges will fit, two hinges, one top, one bottom, will be cut, and this piece of basswood will be cut into pieces and epoxied in position. And these heavy-duty nylon hinges, one top and one bottom, will secure the balsa tail or the balsa rudder into the tail. Then we have a balsa leading edge that will make up the leading edge of the Emirates 777-9X tail. Then we have, which will fit inside here, two carbon fiber rods that will fit inside the actual tail, and that will make up the structural strength of the tail. Now you saw in the beginning of the video the tail finished and the decals on it and looks beautiful. Well, this is how we actually make that happen. Now, one note to everybody, a great tip and a great thing for cheap carbon fiber are arrow bodies. Arrows are great sources of lightweight, incredibly strong carbon fiber. These cost $3 a piece at Walmart, and they come in various lengths, and they're incredibly inexpensive and they're incredibly strong. I'll cut the wire guide and the arrow head notch. I'll cut that out of position, so we don't need those. They're very lightweight, and that's what will make up the internal structure of the tail section. So these are the components for the Emirates 777-9X rudder tail rudder. It's incredibly straightforward, very simple, and what is most important, it's very lightweight, and that's the key. Lightweight, perfect. All right, let's assemble and put together our Emirates 777-9X tail. Okay guys, now what we're going to do is we're going to start applying our carbon fiber rods to the internal portion of the Emirates 777-9X tail. We have the tail is in two halves, right and left. And what we're going to do is we're going to stick the rods. Now these are arrow body rods, and let me tell you something. These are incredibly strong. They're lightweight and strong, and they're very easy to get. Very easy to find. I buy mine at Walmart for about $3 a piece. You can get them on sale even cheaper sometimes when they're on clearance. So what we're going to do is we're going to position the rods in a certain way so that they don't interfere with where we're going to link up the actual rudder hinges. So we go ahead and we kind of mark off with a marker where we want the rods to go. Draw that out like so. Just like that. There we are. And we'll do the same thing with this rod. Now with this rod, I want it to be a little bit further out. You don't want the rods bunched up because you don't get any strength that way. When you push one rod out a little bit further than the other, this rod is picking up the strength of the entirety of the tail, where this rod is also picking up a lot of the strength and adding rigidity. So we're going to position this one here. There we are. Let's just make sure that we are got about the same uniform length as the rod goes up. There we are. This is where calipers, man, they really come in handy. Okay, one of the things I'm going to do now, I've created a channel, 2 channels for the carbon fiber rods to fit into, and I'm just going to take this Dremel with a metal routing bit, kind of a square gouging bit, and instead of using the a hot wire right now, which is just kind of overkill for this white styrofoam, I'm just going to use this router and an air duster and just Dremel out a channel. See? When you got an air duster, it makes life a lot easier. Okay, now I'm going to mix up some epoxy. I have my channels made here for my carbon fiber rods to put inside of the tail rudder. So I'm going to take a little brush here. I got 5-minute. This is JB Weld 5-minute epoxy. It's only 5-minute epoxy if it's over 85 degrees outside. And right now it's hovering around 80 something. It's very humid. But the JB 5-minute epoxy, I don't even think it is 5-minute epoxy. It says 5-minute epoxy, but it's more like 10-minute epoxy. I don't know what it is about this stuff. Now Bob Smith and DevCon is 5 minutes. It says 5 minutes, it is 5 minutes. And actually, if it's above 85 degrees, it's more like 3 minutes. But this stuff, it doesn't kick in 5 minutes. It doesn't even start getting hot in 5 minutes. And yes, I'm mixing it at a ratio of 50-50. So I mix it up and I apply it to the channel where I'm going to place the carbon fiber rod, and this will basically make the carbon fiber rod and the rudder one. Got that in there, so I go ahead and take my carbon fiber rods and I put them right into position like so. There we are. And I'm placing a little bit more epoxy right in there to just help it really bond into the styrofoam. That's the key. That's the whole point of this. You want the carbon fiber and the styrofoam to become one, basically, so that, you know, the possibility of this tail rudder snapping is very, very unlikely, and that's the key. That's the whole point. We have a very lightweight structure, but we have something that is very, very strong, very rigid. and that's what we're going for. We want a strong, rigid surface, a strong, rigid aerodynamic surface that is very resistant to aerodynamic failure or structural overload, which happens when you fly RC aircraft. If you are at high speeds and you execute a certain maneuver, or you give a rudder input at a high speed, if you're not careful, you can tear a whole rudder off an airplane. I mean, if you know and remember a real aircraft, American Airlines A300 over Long Island or Jamaica Bay in the early 2000s, 2003, unfortunately the pilot was working the rudders a little too hard and the whole rudder broke right off the plane. Terrible tragedy. Alright, so now I'm taking a piece of, just a piece of tape, and I'm placing it over the well here to just kind of help seal it, and just kind of, there we go, help kind of cover that up a little bit. One of the problems I have to contend with here in living in South Carolina is it's a very humid night, and unfortunately the mosquitoes, man, are just going bonkers. So I'm just covered in bug repellent. So it's just, which is, it helps it immensely when I've got one of those bug zappers, really powerful stinger bug zappers over there, about 20 feet over there, and that really does help. So okay, we're going to let this sit, and we're going to let these carbon fiber rods become one and bond with the styrofoam right half, and then what we're going to do after that is we're going to take the left half and sandwich them and epoxy them together and make them one. That's the next step. Okay, we are back, and our carbon fiber rods are now one with our tail for our Emirates 777-9X. Now what we're going to do is we are going to basically fuse our right and left tail pieces together. White styrofoam, really lightweight. Carbon fiber rods, again very lightweight, and we are going to sandwich the two together. Alright, let's mix up some 5-minute epoxy. One of the things to remember is we're trying to maintain lightweight, so you don't want to bog down your design and your build with too much dead weight. And sometimes epoxy, if you use too much of it, can actually become a dead weight. And you know, it's funny, in between parts of this build, sometimes I'll pause it and I'll go inside and I'll watch some videos sometimes, and I was just watching Jeff's Custom RC latest podcast with, I was watching my friend, before I was doing that, I was watching my friend RC Phantom Flyers, some of his amazing videos at McGee Tyson. He catches these great videos of 757 freighters, A300 freighters, UPS, FedEx at his local airport. Man, I love watching those vids. And it's watching Jeff's Custom RC, him, Dustin, and his amazing guest, Josh Weaver, and they're talking about a lot about a lot of the fighter jet ARFs that are out there today, like the T-45 and some of the other aircraft that are out there currently, and just kind of discussing about different ways to maybe improve your fighter jet, make it better. And you know, weight and strength always comes into these conversations, and whether you're, you know, putting together an ARF or you're repairing an airplane that you have, a kit, something, you always just kind of want to be, you always want to be aware of weight. You always want to be aware of weight, because if you keep repairing a plane over time, an EDF fighter jet, you keep doing little field repairs and stuff, sometimes weight can creep in areas where you don't you don't usually, you may not be looking for it, and you don't notice it when it happens. So sometimes an RC airplane can just get heavy, and you just don't even know it until it's too late. And then you got a plane that's overweight, and it's not flying right, and it's sluggish, and it's all because of you know, you got to keep the planes light, man. You got to keep them light. Yeah, but if you definitely like a good RC podcast, check out Jeff and Dustin on Jeff's Custom RC channel, man. I'm telling you, I love those. I love his podcast, man. Just good stuff, man. Good stuff. And there's a lot of great channels out there. There's my buddy, my main man, Bry, with his channel, RC Phantom Flyer. I just love his artwork. And you got my man, Angel Redding, Pat Balax. You got so many good channels out there. So many great builders. You know, EP Productions out there in Washington State. Amazing, out near Portland or Seattle. I always get that wrong, but whew, check out some of the. And then there are just some amazing builders out there, man. Amazing stuff. Okay, now we're going to. So we got all of our epoxy on there. 5-minute epoxy. We go ahead and just take our left piece of our tail, and we just very gently adhere the two pieces. And for this, we're going to flip it because gravity. We want the epoxy to fall that way. Not epoxy doesn't go up, it goes down. So we're just going to very gently let that set. Make sure everything's lined up. Make sure everything is straight. That is crucial. We walk around. We take a look. We make sure it's all uniform. Because if it isn't, you're going to pay for it later. We'll take a little piece of tape here, and we'll cinch the corner, or excuse me, the leading edge here of the tail. We'll cinch it together. There we go. Nice. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm very gently, putting these old battery weights down the tail to kind of weigh it down to help the two halves adhere to each other and become one. That's crucial, because if you're joining two pieces and you want them to become one piece, you want to have a real strong bond. So I'm going to let that sit for a while. I'm going to let that set, let the epoxy kick, and then after that we are going to apply our balsa leading edge to our tail. We're going to replace a portion of styrofoam tail and replace it and substitute it with a nice aerodynamic leading edge balsa piece. Isn't that nice? Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? That's what we're going to do next. You see, it's all straightforward stuff. It's not complex. We're not redesigning the wheel. We're just doing straightforward, practical RC engineering, RC scratch building. We're not rewriting the Old Testament or the New Testament or recalibrating the laws of physics. We're just doing straightforward building. And you can do it too, and that's the whole point of that's the point of this channel, to show you that you at home, in your work shed, in your workshop, in your man cave, can build RC airplanes, and you can become, with time and practice and patience, become a better builder than me. You could be the amazing builder. You just have to put the time into it. All right. We've had our Emirates 777-9X tail setting. The epoxy, 5-minute epoxy, has now bonded the right and left half of the tail together. Look at that. That is perfect. That really is perfect. That's what I'm talking about. Look at that. Isn't that nice? That's beautiful. This thing is massive. I don't know about you, man. This is massive. So, what am I going to do now? What's the next step? Okay. The next big step is we are going to add in a balsa leading edge. Okay? So, this is what we do. It's really easy. It's very, very simple, very straightforward. We go ahead and take a caliper. We measure the depth or the width, really the chord, if you will, of the leading edge. There we go. And we get a pen, and we go ahead and I would say right about there, we mark off with the caliper how much of the styrofoam we want to cut away. All right. There we are. All right, now what we do is I take a ruler, an aluminum ruler, and I mark off the lines that I link up the lines that I made with the caliper, and this determines what I want to cut away with the razor, and then use this and lay this over the balsa and replace it with an exact balsa copy. Basically copying this piece of styrofoam with a piece of balsa. This leading edge. Understand? Alright, that's next step. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut away this section of the tail. Now the main thing here is I got to be real careful about how I do this. I've got to be really careful. So I'm just cutting straight through the styrofoam. There we go. All right. So I've cut this away. See what I did? I cut away this piece of styrofoam of the leading edge of our tail, and I'm going to replace it with a piece of balsa. That is what is about to happen. So it's very simple how we do this. We take the piece of styrofoam that we just cut away and we line it up onto our balsa. Take a pen, and what you do is you go ahead and you just, with a pen, you draw the contour of the styrofoam piece. So we're just basically making a facsimile, a perfect copy. See? So now I know what to cut and what to fabricate. Right there. Let's go ahead and take our handsaw and we'll just gently, very gently cut this piece of balsa. Sometimes with a thick piece of balsa like this, it's just a little bit more expedient to cut it with a handsaw. And then I cut the back end here just with a regular razor. And I'll cut it away until it matches the contour that I have that I drew out with the pen. Alright, and see, this is what we did. This is what we just did. See? We replaced the styrofoam leading edge with a balsa leading edge. Now we are going to epoxy this into position and let it set. Very simple. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and apply our 5-minute epoxy to this piece of balsa, and then we're going to add it straight onto the tail. See, and I just place it down, and I go ahead and take some pins, and I basically pin it right into position. There we are. Put one on the top and one on the bottom. Alright, so basically I have pinned this into place, and I'm going to add spackle to this area here, so to blend the balsa leading edge to the contour of the tail, and then once that's done, it'll all be painted white. So this will all blend in, and the big advantage is it gives you a nice strong leading edge that's relatively ding resistant and hanger rash resistant. That's the advantage of doing it that way. So we're moving along here. We're making some good progress on our Emirates 777-9X tail section. It's coming along. I'm happy. Very happy with what we're doing here. Alright, my friends, and the next stage in the construction or the assembly of our Emirates 777-9X tail is we've added the balsa leading edge, as you can see. We've added that. Now what we need to do is we need to blend these spaces in this area here with the balsa with the rest of the tail. And how we're going to do that is pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy. See, everything that I do in scratch building, I want it to be easy and straightforward for you guys so you can understand it relatively easy. I don't want to use exotic techniques that you may not be able to replicate or copy at home, because if that's the case, what's the point of scratch building if you can't build along and do it too? I want to make exotic, beautiful planes, but do it in a way where you guys can do the same. Alright, I take some spackle. I get one-time Red Devil, my favorite spackle, lightweight spackle that I use. It's the best that I've ever come across. Take a trowel, and I just spackle it right in, straight into here. And then spackle is a little on the dry side, which is not that much of a problem. See what I'm doing? And I blend it very gently. I blend it into that crack. There we go. I blend it into that crack. not the crack, but this area in here, and I just blend the styrofoam in with the balsa. There we go. And then I'll shape that as it dries. I can then come in and shape it. Alright, I'm just adding more spackle. Spackling up the top here, the tippy top of our tail. Any kind of irregularities, you just spackle it in. And that way, you can blend it all later on. Look at that. Perfect. We just spackle everything in, fix any imperfections, anything that doesn't look the way we want it to. We can just correct everything. We can make it right. Spackle is a great medium tool. It really helps the scratch builder. I've been using it for many years, and it comes in handy. Anybody that tells you different, they've never used spackle before. That's the only reason why somebody would ever badmouth spackle, is they've never used it. They've never used spackle. Yep. Man, these mosquitoes are killing me, y'all. You have no idea. I'm getting eaten to death right now. It's like I'm out in the flipping... God almighty. It's like I'm out in the Nile Delta or something. My God. And that's what happens when you don't put on... that's what happens when you don't put on insect repellent when you come outside. God. These things are tearing me apart over here. Thank God I'm not a hemophiliac, or I'd be in a lot of trouble. So now I'm getting the back side of the tail. Now, this is before I add the hinge mounts for the rudder hinges. So right now, I want a nice smooth back end here. There we go. All right, we added our spackle. We're going to head and let this dry. That's the next step. We're going to let it dry, and then we're going to start sanding it. Alright, my friends, we're back with the Emirates 777-9X tail. And now what we're going to take various sanding tools. We have the tail, we've allowed our lightweight spackle to dry. And now what we're going to start to do is, we're going to go ahead and start sanding. But sometimes before we sand, I like to come along with a little razor. And it can be easier sometimes to just cut away the excess spackle very gently with a razor, you know, before you actually, it can just save a little bit of time, you know, before you start to use the sanding tools. You can just make life a little bit easier. It just helps you. And it sounds like we got some thunder coming. That's not good. Alright. Let's get rocking. So what I come in and do is I just take this kind of a honeycomb sander. This is about a 80 grit, and I just start gently sanding. Come in with this. I just gently sand away. Get rid of excess, you know, get rid of excess. So start to blend. You just want to blend. You want to blend the spackle in with the actual leading edge of the tail. I'll go ahead and use various sanding blocks. Here's a good 80 grit. So here's a good 80 grit. I'll go ahead and come through and just gently nice and gentle come through and just sand this by hand, nice and easy, and just blend it. Just blend it all together. Nice and easy. Okay guys, we're done sanding the Emirates 777-9X tail. We're done sanding the tail. And now what we're going to do is we're going to get ready to add the mounting points that the Balsa rudder will fit into. So there's going to be two basswood mounting points here and here that are going to be added into the tail section, and that's what we're going to do next. We're going to add those pieces. Okay, so what I'm going to use for the rudder mounting tabs is this basswood, and I'm going to mark off a section here that I'm going to cut out, and I'm going to mark off a length with this caliper, and yeah, and I'll make two of these. And then I just get a hacksaw. And I just start cutting. Okay, so basically these little plywood tabs are going to go here and here. And they're going to be epoxied into place, and I'm going to use this Dremel tool to Dremel out the little area where they're going to go here and here, and then I'll epoxy them into place, and then that's how I can mount the rudder to the actual tail, and that'll really be on there, and that's how I'm going to do that. Alright, so I got my positions to where I want it. Get my Dremel tool. I'm going to Dremel out these areas right in here. And see, there you go. There they are. Those are the tabs where the rudder hinge will be mounted into. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some spackle in there to smooth that out, so that I have a smooth surface there. Okay, we're back, guys, and what we're going to be doing right now is we are going to seal up the styrofoam and balsa leading edge tail of our Emirates 777-9X. We're going to use a product called shellac. Okay, this is a great product for sealing foam, and the good thing about it is it doesn't eat foam. This is foam safe. It will not hurt your foam, so I can go ahead and spray this down, and that helps seal the seal and protect the styrofoam from other paints that we're going to use later on down the road. We're going to put a gloss white paint on this. Alright, so I'm going to start spraying it down. I got a N2 dust mask on. Respirator's fine too, but for this you can just use a dust mask. It's fine. And I just start applying it right to the evenly right to the tail. Okay, so I used shellac and I used Minwax, polyacrylic Minwax, water-based, and I put one coating of the shellac and I put a coating of the Minwax on the styrofoam tail, let it dry. Then what I'm going to come in with for the last bit of coating is Mod Podge. I've used this before, I use it a lot. It's a great product for giving a nice hardening coat to a styrofoam surface. I pour it into a little brush cup, like a little cup like this, and then I can brush it directly onto the tail. And that's what we're going to do right now. Alright, now what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start brushing on some Mod Podge to the styrofoam tail of our Emirates 777-9X. I've added the shellac and the Minwax. I've got a relatively sealed styrofoam surface. So now I'm going to come in with the Minwax, and I'm just going to start gently brushing it straight on. Okay, this has been, I painted this down with the Mod Podge, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let it dry. And once that dries, if I need to do any end sanding, any final sanding, I'll go ahead and do that. And then it's ready for priming, and then adding the gloss white paint. And then after that, I can go ahead and add the decals, the Emirates decals. Alright, so now I've got the balsa rudder portion of our Emirates 777-9X tail, but I'm going to go ahead and add Minwax to this as well. I'm going to brush on Minwax. This works perfectly well with balsa as well. I've already added a layer of Minwax, but now I'm going to seal it up with the with this. It's great stuff. Okay, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and Dremel out right in here the hinge slots to where the hinges are going to go on the rudder and the tail. I'm going to use a Dremel with a rotary saw with a rotary cutter, and I'm going to go ahead and cut those out so I can go ahead and add the hinges. After these are painted, I can go ahead and add the hinges. Alright, now that I've got the hinge slots drilled, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit her with her first layer of primer. I've got a white sandable primer right here from Rust-Oleum. It's sandable, and basically that means that you can build up a layer or two, sand it, and smooth it out. You can fill in any kind of you know, little cracks and crevices you can fill with this kind of a primer, and then you can sand it down once it's dry. So this stuff is pretty good, so we're going to apply it now. So I go ahead and get my respirator on. Breathing in paint is not a good thing to do. All right. Start. Mix it up good, and we'll start on the tail. And then we go around and do the other side. Okay, we've hit our tail and rudder with white primer. And the big advantage of the white primer is it's going to show you, and you're going to see especially in the sunlight, any imperfections, divots, creases, anything that you still need to deal with. The white primer really helps bring that out, especially in sunlight. You can hold these surfaces in the sunlight and you're going to see problems, and then you can come in again with some spackle and smooth over any remaining problems, seal it, and then hit with primer, and you get a really perfect smooth surface that you want. And then you can hit it with the gloss coat. Then you can hit, and then you can add your decals. So once this is all said and done, we'll add our Emirates red, black, and green decals of the flag of the United Arab Emirates. And another thing is, because always use a primer that is, if you're using a white color, a light color, use a light primer. If you're using a dark color, use a dark primer like a gray. Because this is going to be gloss white, we obviously use a white primer. Okay guys, what we have here is we got our Emirates 777-9X tail, and as you can see, we have our hinge slots cut into the back of the trailing edge surface of it that the rudder will fit into, that the balsa rudder will fit into. Here and here is basswood that has been epoxied and blended into the tail, and that's what the hinge will fit into. Here are the hinges. They're heavy-duty Dubro hinges. I've cut them into little corners, little triangular corners here to fit into the slot that's kind of circular because of the Dremel tool that formed them. So let's go ahead and take our balsa rudder. Here's our balsa rudder. Okay. We have our balsa rudder here, and we have the dog. We got the dog chorus doing their thing, so they're adding to. You know, they got stuff to say, man. I'm telling you, my neighbor's dogs are just. Yeah. So they'll be doing that for this whole segment of the video. But so I got and pop. I hand position the hinges into place. They don't have to be drilled in yet, right? But I basically want to put them into position to make sure that they'll fit properly into the tail. So that's what I'm doing right now. Upper one seems to be pretty good. I'm a little trouble with the lower one. Okay, I might have to cut. Let's see what's going on with the lower one here. There we go. Okay. Sometimes you got to get these hinges in just right in order for them to seat properly. Looks pretty good. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Yeah, it's not bad. And then what I'll do is once it's been gloss painted and I've got the decal in and everything's done there, I'll go ahead and drill my holes into position. But what I'll do is before I drill the holes, I'll actually make what I call guide holes with this hole punch here on the tail side and on the rudder side. One each. Two durable hinges are enough. This is the hinge. It's heavy-duty hinges, Dubro, catalog number 257. And they're very, very durable. They're very strong hinges, and two's enough. One top, one bottom. Now, if you had something even bigger than this, maybe 3 would make sense. 1, 2, and 3 would make sense. But for this application, 2 is more than enough. Sometimes there's such a thing as overkill, and overkill is something you want to stay away from when you're scratch building. Overkill means heavy. Overkill means overweight, so be careful with that. All right, let's keep this build going. Okay, what we have here is we have our rudder, our balsa rudder for our Emirates 777-9X, and I'm now going to paint it with, it's been primed, it has primer coat, it's been sanded down, and now I'm going to give it its first coat of high gloss white, and I'm going to use a Krylon appliance epoxy. This is a high gloss enamel, which gives you an incredibly durable high gloss paint and finish that is just really spectacular, and it's a white. I mean, it's a very, very incredibly bright white, and when it's finished and it sets, it's really glossy. So we're going to apply that now. I'm going to go ahead and don my respirator. Always put your respirator on when you are spraying any kind of gas or particulate matter that's under a certain micron size. You don't want to breathe that kind of stuff in, so try and be careful of that. Let's put some coats down on it, and then we're going to set it down and dry. Usually try and let it dry in a dry area somewhere. See, it rained here not too long ago, so it's a little humid, but you usually can paint this kind of stuff in humidity or dry conditions. It really doesn't matter. Just in more humid conditions, it's going to take longer to dry. But if you want it to dry thoroughly, just dry it indoors. So, spray outdoors, dry indoors. There we go. Alright, we got our first coat of high gloss paint on this, so I'm going to get this out of here and let this dry. That's crucial right now. We got to let this dry. So give it, I would say, at least 12 hours to 24 hours to let the high gloss dry. That's what it's going to need. And once more through the breach, dear friends, the time has come. The moment of truth has come, and now we are going to paint our Emirates 777-9X tail with high gloss paint. Alright, my friends, let's do it. Let's paint this thing. Like before with the rudder, we're using this Krylon Appliance High Gloss Paint White. And I'm donning the respirator. I don't want to breathe in paint fumes. It's a wonderful way to cut the lifespan of your lungs short, or your entire life, depending on how you look at it. So here we go. Let's start. Paint gas on the lens. But that can happen if you're not careful. Give it a good shake. I'll start from the corner, and you just want to keep moving, basically. Some people go from the top down. It's, you know, just you pick a spot and start. Not bad. I'm going to turn around and do the other side. Well, let's get the leading edge. Alright, now I'm going to put this in a dry place, in a dry room, probably my work shed, and let it dry, probably overnight. And then I'll apply another coat. And then after that, I'm going to attach the rudder to the actual tail, to the tail itself, and then put the hinges in. And then add the final decals, and then hard bolt the rudder into the tail itself. Okay guys, a little change of plans here. I'm not going to go with a decal or vinyl for the decals of the for the tail livery of our Emirates 777-9X. What I'm going to go with is I'm going to paint it off and use a stencil. I'm going to use this stencil here that I made, and this stencil is what is going to I'm going to use a pencil and then I'm going to use painter's tape and everything and paint off and tape off where I want the green, the red, green, and black stripes to be. So in order to, because I'm going to do that, I'm going to go ahead and add the hinges now and drill those into position so that way if you're going to paint, go ahead. If you're going to paint your livery onto your tail, go ahead and add your hinges in first. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, we're going to go ahead and add our hinges, bottom and top, into position, and that's what we're going to do in this segment of the video. So what I'm doing now is I'm going ahead and adding in the hinges to the balsa rudder, and I press them back as far as they'll go into the rudder surface. And then what I do is I very gently position the hinges into the tail and line everything up the best I can. And then that way I get a nice, secure, and close fit that I'm happy with. And okay, the first thing you want to do when you're adding your hinge to the tail and the rudder, you're adding your rudder to your tail and you're hinging everything in, you want to make sure that you understand where the hinge is to begin with. And what I like to do is I take a hole punch, all right, and I basically determine where I want to put the hole. I basically determine where I want to put the hole in the tail here. And what I go ahead and do is I start an initial hole with the hole punch, and then I line up where I know the plywood is, and I don't want to go too far out because then I'll miss the plywood. Not the plywood, but the basswood. And you'll know when you hit the basswood because you feel it, it's hard. So there's your two holes right there. Rudder side, tail side. And then I do the same thing up top for the top hinge. And you basically do everything. I mean, I've done this so many times over so many years that you just get a feel for it. And you kind of know what's right and what's wrong just by feel. So there you go, there's our holes. It's that simple. And then what we do is we come in with our Dremel. We come in with our Dremel, it's real simple. And we go ahead and we drill through into and through the actual plastic Teflon hinge. You'll know by feel when the Dremel drops down that it's actually through the plywood, the basswood on the tail side, and then through the hinge underneath. And there we are. Now, the next step beyond that is picking a screw that's going to go through and all the way through. Now, something you need to remember is on the tail side we have a pretty thick control surface. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that we pick a screw that's long enough that's going to penetrate through and get through not only the outer surface, but dig deep enough in to get into the basswood and then go through the hinge and come through into the other side of the basswood. If not, you're not going to seat your hinge in properly. See, we hand thread those in, top and bottom, pretty straightforward. We just put them in by hand for now, and then we come in with a screwdriver and we just screw them in. And you can feel it go down and in. You know when you're biting in, and you can feel when it's flush And these are Hillman. These are Hillman 4 by 3/4. Item number is 80154. It's a nice big box you get at Ace hardware stores. True Value, you can buy them by a big pack, and that big pack will last you quite a while. And you'd be surprised how many different RC projects those you can use those for. So now we're hand tightening the hinge up top, the tail side, and you just run your finger over that to make sure it's flush. And there you go, we're flush. There we are, nice and flush. Let's bring that back out a little bit. There we go. And now we're going to do the rudder side. Now on the rudder side, what we want to make sure is that for the lower portion of the rudder, this big Hillman may still work and may not poke through, but it's too close. So I need to get a smaller screw, a shorter screw. So let's see what we've got in our repertoire. We've got a 4 by 1/2 right here, sheet metal screw, again by Hillman. And this is a thinner, a shorter screw. So that way we don't have any fear of this thing punching through to the other side. So we don't want our screws breaking through to the other side, you know what I'm saying? We don't want to do a Jim Morrison impersonation, Doors impersonation on this, in this situation. So let's go ahead and start on the rudder side, going right into the balsa. And you know when you're biting, you know when you've bitten into the hinge and you got a good there we go, I think we're in. The ultimate test is what I call the pull test, to see if you can pull them both apart. Because if you can pull the rudder away from the tail, you know that you didn't bite into the hinge, to the Teflon hinge. You didn't get through to it. You understand? And that's a disaster, because that defeats the purpose. So, all right, now we're through on this top one. Let's make sure. Yep, top one's in. All right, let's make sure. Let's see that we have a good connection. We try and pull them apart. And they're not coming apart. Perfect. We did it. We're all the way through. There you go. Look at that. Look at that. We've got our Emirates. Look at that, huh? And there we are. Look at that. We got our mounted rudder mounted to the tail of our Emirates 777-9X tail. Perfect. Now that we have this in place, we can go ahead and start adding our Emirates decal and livery to the tail. The red, green, and black. One of the most famous tails and one of the most recognizable tails in aviation, the Emirates airline tail of the United Arab Emirates. All right, that's what we're doing next, and practically the final step in this build video. And after everything else, after all the booze and the broads and the cockfights and all the gambling and everything, it all comes down to this moment. The actual placing and getting ready to paint the decals straight onto the tail of our Emirates 777-9X. And what I have right here is a stencil. This is called a decal stencil. Now, the way this works, it's a little tricky, but it's not, I think you're getting the gist of it. Basically what we have here is we have the outline, i.e. stencil, of the Emirates red, green, and black stripes. Now, in order to do this, you want to get it right. So how I do it is I make a stencil. Okay? I make a stencil, and what we're going to do is we're going to tape the stencil to the surface here, and then we're going to take a pencil. We're going to take a pencil and we're going to pencil the lines into the tail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to very gently tape and then position this decal onto the surface of the tail here and make sure that it's in the proper position. And that alone can be a little tricky, but it's better to have the everything lined up first. So what I also need to do is I need to make sure that the tail, the rudder, is raised up to its proper position so that it's level. So I'll fit a little something in there to make sure that the rudder is somewhat level, so it's not bent in either one direction or the other, if that makes any sense. So the stencil is going to tell us where we're going to place the red, green, and the black, which is the customary colors of the United Arab Emirates. So those are the national colors of the country. So what I need to do is I need to just position this all just right and place this down onto here so that it doesn't move and it stays put where I want it to stay, so that I can come in with a pencil and pencil in the lines and get myself situated with that. Now, yeah, I could use pins, but pins are just going to put holes into the surface, and that's probably, we don't want that to happen, because then paint will get down into that hole, moisture can, and you can really cause, it can wreak havoc. It can wreak havoc on things, so you kind of want to do everything the simple and easy way. So we know that the green here on the corner goes all the way up. It runs all the way up to the corner here like this. Corner of the rudder tail. Just like that. There we go. Alright. So that's where we want that. Let me actually snap a little photo for posterity, whatever the heck it is. I think the midday heat is starting to get to me. It's about 95 and plus. So I take a pencil. Actually, let me come in to the other side so I'm not blocking the camera too bad. I come in with my pencil, and what I do is I very gently draw in the line that I'm going to use the painter's tape on, and that's how I know where to put the red, the black, and the green. And that's why these stencils come in so handy, because then I can place everything exactly where I want it, and then that's where I know where to put the painter's tape. And this is how the stencil helps me. And the other good thing about the pencil is I can remove the pencil. It's easy to erase away the pencil after the paint and the tape, the painter's tape has been pulled up and away. You can easily take a magic eraser. You can just take the eraser off the pencil and very gently remove the penciling mark, the penciling line. Oops, well, we got a problem here. That's not good. That came off. I don't want that happening. Alright, so when I pull this away, we should have our lines. When I pull this away, we should have all the lines for the Emirates decal for the tail. And it's a relatively simple, straightforward design. It's not like I'm doing some kind of intricate decal. If it was an intricate decal, I would literally print out a decal, a sticker decal, and just add it to the tail. It would be, you know, much like the, the tail on the Norwegian 737-7, or the MAX 7 and the 737-300 Siam Air. And there we go. There's our lines. Can you see that? See? See, there are lines. So what I'm going to start out with, the first line that I'm going to do, or the first piece I'm going to do, is I'm going to run this top line right up here. And what I use is I use a, I think we got a storm coming. What I do is I run, or I use Hasegawa, or is it Tamiya? Tamiya painter's tape for curves. And it's really, really thin, and it's very flexible. So what you can do with it, it'll help you go around curves. If you've ever seen on hot rods the flames, well, the way the artists that do that, some of the real good guys from back in the day, they'll do those flames by hand. But in a lot of cases, they just use a thin painter's tape, and they apply it with a thin painter's tape, and you can go around curves a lot easier. And that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm very gently, I take my finger and I run it down the line, and I'm following the line. See, this is why that line is so important, because you have to have it there, because you have to have a baseline to go from. You have to know what it is you're doing. You know, what's the point? Hear that thunder coming? Yeah, I don't know how much longer I'll be doing this for this segment. It's always nice when I'm able to get outside and during the day and get some building done. That's why I build a lot at night, is because just during the day, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on. Feeding the baby, running errands for the baby, running errands for Shannon, my wife. There's always something going on. So that's that top line right there. And I got that tape down. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this side. Now this right here is going to be the red. And that's all we're doing right now. You do one thing at a time. One color at a time. I mean, if you wanted to, and you're really good at hand painting, you could hand brush this all in if you wanted to. If you're very skilled with the paintbrush, I'm sure you could do that. But me, I'd rather just shoot it with the, I'd rather just give it a shot with the paint. Oh man. Alright, so now that I've got I've got that tape down, what I can then do is I come in with my Tamiya paint. I'm keeping an eye on that storm behind me, I'm telling you. I don't want this. I'll tell you, man, nothing worse than getting rained on. I got my Tamiya painter's tape here, masking tape, and I'm just masking away the area in here. And I've got to figure out a way to stop sweating all over everything. This is not good. I'm almost thinking of wearing a hairnet or something. It's like I'm working in Hormel or something. What the hell? Alright, so I keep doing this for a little while. And that's really important. You got to get this right, because this blocks off that area. And then I'll just use saran wrap for everything else and isolate it. That way I'm not using tons and tons and tons of painter's tape, because this stuff, you know, it's not cheap. I mean, you can get it cheap, I'm sure, at some places, at some automotive stores. I'm sure you can buy it in bulk. Matter of fact, I've done that. I have a lot of it. I probably have enough painter's tape to do, I would say, 5 of these giant 777 airliners, and still have some left over. Oh my God, it is hot, ladies and gentlemen. You have no idea. Even in the shade, it's probably 95 degrees right now in the shade. Like, I can only do this for so long, and then I have to run inside and get some libation, get some liquid coolant in me before I keel over. Alright, so that part is done. So we're good there. Alright, next I'll go ahead and get this whole area cordoned off with saran wrap. Saran wrap is a good thing, tin foil, but sometimes tin foil, the metal can rub on your paint and actually leave, it can leave a stain, so you got to be careful with that. Now this is where saran wrap comes into play. This is how we use saran wrap as a masking agent for paint. Alright, regular, standard saran wrap, nothing too spectacular. You lay it out down onto the surface gently. This can be a bit of a pain in the ass if you don't do it right. Oh man. Now what's interesting is you don't have to use painter's tape to tape down the saran wrap. You can use regular tape for that. The key is, man, you gotta get it flush with the surface. You understand? Because that way you'll get what's better known as bleed through, and that ain't no good. I mean, yes, this is pretty much how I paint a lot of my fuselages on my airliners, like the Siam Air, the Norwegian, even the Lufthansa A300 and the A310 Pan Am. This is all done with, much of it is just done with paint, some painter's tape, a little old-fashioned elbow grease and elbow sweat, and you can. We want to make sure, very important, that everything is sealed up, that we don't have cracks on the painter's tape. Because any crack, I'm telling you right now, any crack, the paint will get through, and the paint will stain and ruin anything else that you're doing. I'm telling you that right now. So that's the one downfall of doing what I'm about to do. You've got to make sure everything is properly cordoned off and separated from everything else, because again, you're going to get paint on it. So understand that now. Alright, getting on my respirator. Respirator on. Alright, what paint are we using? Okay, for the red, for the Emirates red of the Emirates tail, I'm using Toolbox Red by Rust-Oleum. This is a heavy duty, really strong kind of epoxy paint. Really tough, very thick, good paint. It's a bright red because the Emirates red on that tail is very bright. It's a very in-your-face kind of red, and because it's the national colors of the United Arab Emirates, you want it to look good. You want it to look glossy, have a nice glossy finish to it. So again, we just make sure everything is taped down. We make sure everything is ready. We go over once over, because any mistake, it's going to bleed through and screw everything up. A perfect surface. So look at this. just when I'm doing it, the bugs start coming. All right, here we go. Wow. That looks good. That is, whew, very nice. Look at that, guys. Wow. That's going to look nice with the red and the green. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, we're going to let that dry, and then we're going to do the green on the top. All right, then we're going to let that dry, and then we're going to do the green up on the top and the black right in there, and then we're going to have ourselves an Emirates tail. Gotta love it. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the masking. See how everything came out. I'm not going to remove 100, everything. I'm just going to remove. And that way I can get ready to paint the green stripe in here. So in order to do that, I need to get this stuff out of the way. But as you notice, bleed through can happen so easily, and that's what you're always guarding against, is bleed through. Paint is paint just doesn't care. It'll bleed right through. It doesn't care. Okay, for this next portion, I'm going to have to remove the rudder from the tail. And that's so I can get the green here separate and get the green there separate. But because of the break in between the two, it would take a lot of taping off to block off the separation of the two, and the fact that I have a seam in here and I have a space, it would try to tape that off with it connected would be a pain in the neck. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove that. Okay guys, we're back. We have masked off all these areas here that are not going to be painted green. We got the red down, now it's the green right here and there on the rudder. We separated the rudder from the tail so we could properly mask off parts of the rudder we don't want to get painted. I put the screw back in right there so that the screw will be painted green along with the portion of the tail. So for the Emirates green, I'm using Rust-Oleum Gloss Protective Enamel Emerald Green. As you can see, this is great outdoor paint. Automotive paint, Rust-Oleum, stuff that's made for industrial use outdoors is what you want to use. Hobby paints like Testors and Tamiya, sometimes, and Humbrol, sometimes those paints don't stand up that well outside. When you build RC airplanes, you have to understand that they're going to be outside in the elements, in the sun, in humidity, and out in the early morning. They're going to get dew and moisture on them, condensation. So you need paints that are really resilient and tough. And yeah, now we're going to put this on. I just spotted that. There we go. Okay, we're good. There we go.
Perfect. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah, we're getting somewhere. Yeah, that does. Yes, indeed. I like it. All right, now I'm going to get this out of here and let it dry.
Okay, now I'm going to add the black paint to the Emirates tail. Again, put my respirator on. Don't want to chance anything.
And for this, I'm using a black appliance paint by Krylon. This is a black appliance paint. It's really, really good. It's an epoxy. It's very, very durable and strong. And that's the good thing about it. It's a really strong, it's strong stuff. And just make sure there's no dust rattling down on it. Just lightly blow off any dust. Put a little bit of masking tape up here to make sure there's no bleed throughs. That's crucial. You really got to make sure that everything is down and secure before you paint. Make sure all your tape is secure and that there's no bubbles or pockets where the tape is not adhering, because if there is, it's going to mess everything up. Any little area, it's going to, you get one shot, if you stir it up, see something down here. So you can catch anything if you look. If you look hard enough, sometimes you'll find a mistake. And it's always good to give it once over. Give it a good once over before you paint. You always want to give your work, give the surface that you're painting a good look over. That way, if you've forgotten something, you'll catch it before you paint. Because once you paint, that's it. If you've made a mistake, you have to go back in and repaint and retouch. And sometimes, my friends, that can be a nightmare. So here we go. Let's give this piece a couple of test shots. Good. Nice, perfect. And now the rudder. There we are. We got a red, green, black. Perfect. What do I do now? I take it and I let it go dry. I'm going to let that dry for a good day. At least 24 hours, and then I know I got a dry surface.
All right, well, we have got our black paint down. It's dried. Let's start to peel away the masking tape and our saran wrap, and let's see how everything came out. Let's do the rudder first. Very gently. Very gently. So far, so good. Gotta be real careful here. Alright, so the rudder, so far so good. I like how the rudder came out. Now for the actual, now for the tail herself. The main piece. Now this is where it can get tricky, because if you do this wrong, you can really screw the pooch really fast. You can just make everything just a million times worse if you don't pay attention to how you're taking everything away. Just be very gentle, very subtle as to how you do it, because you can just really ruin a very nice finish with one improper removal of tape. As you remove the tape, you can just pull away paint that you didn't want to pull away. You can tear something, you can scratch something, and you can do it so fast. This is the downside of painting outside of using a decal. Decal has its advantage, but you're not going to get that crisp look that you're going to get with paint. And you're most likely not going to get that gloss either. Not seeing any seeing a little bit of bleed through, but it's all very manageable. There we go. All right. So this is maybe just very, very gentle is how you remove the tape. Because again, you can really screw everything up so easily when you're doing this when you're removing this. There we go. Very gentle, very easy movements. Cut stuff off when you see big chunks. Cut it away and cut it off. Don't mess with it. Don't play with it, because if you do, it's gonna stick on something. It's gonna catch on something. It's just gonna wreak havoc as you remove it. So just tend to tear it away, but then break it into pieces as you do it. Because what's gonna happen is it's just gonna cause other problems. And what I mean is the tape itself. Just be careful. Right the last second, man, it goes wrong. And there you go. There's a little mistake right there. There's a bleed through. I had a little bleed through and I have a blotch right there. But it's not that bad. It's really not that bad. It's minor. It's a minor, very minor problem. Not that big of a deal. And then you got the painter's tape on the hinges. You got to remember to remove that. And that can be a pain in the asshole on its own, trying to get that off. But when that becomes a problem, you just take a razor and you just cut that off. You just cut the tape in half and it just comes right off. There you go. I'm like shaking with anticipation. That little blot up there, that little glitch right there, that's nothing. I've had it to where I've had a whole bleed through and you're like, no! I mean, you just can't believe it. And all the work is for nothing, because then you have to go back and redo it. Look at that. Woo, baby. Yeah. That's so nice. That is so nice. I am gonna take a photo of that. Look at that. God, that looks good. Man, I love it when a livery comes together, don't you? So then, oh, I forgot something. Gotta get all the tape up. Can't forget some of the tape. Got to get all the tape up. All of it. Alright, so I'm going to very gently take this screw out. Take this screw out. Pull it out, not all the way, just enough to let the hinge back in. And we remove it, we add our tail back on. Very gently. Very gently, my dear friends. There we are. There we are, and then we screw her back down and in. Look at that. Getting in there, come on, don't do this to me. Yeah, sometimes if you don't exactly get it, it won't. Come on. Come on. Yep, that'll happen. Sometimes you can't get the hole to line up again. There we go. Got it. Perfect. Up here. See, now I'm lining up those screws again. Come on, baby, get in there. Yeah, baby, right in there. Look at that, man. Whoa! God almighty, is that, look at that. Oh my God. My friend in the UAE, my friend in Abu Dhabi, I hope you're liking this, brother. Look at that. Look at that. That is free publicity for Emirates Airline right there. Look at that. Courtesy of DemonDriver. Gotta love it. Man, that looks good. So I'm going to touch up a couple of the small little imperfections. I'm going to fix those. Very simple, easy fix, not a big deal. And yeah, fix that, and I'll add our chrome leading edge, and I'll do the other side, and we are done. This tail is ready to be mounted to our 777-9X, to our Emirates 777-9X. Man, that looks good. Okay, guys, here we are at the final last stage of our Emirates 777-9X tail livery painting and completion of the entire tail to get it to the point where it's ready to be mounted to our Emirates 777-9X. So the last stage is to use this Scotch aluminum tape, which not chrome. If you look at these photos, it's an aluminum leading edge which runs about here to here, and then it's a deeper aluminum or composite from here down. So I'm going to go from here to about there, and I'm going to add this aluminized leading edge. You guys can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to roll this out, starting it right about here. And you just lay it out and you run your finger down the surface of the tape, and you hand guide it up to a certain point, right about there. Then you come in with your scissor, and the key is to cut it perfectly straight across. That's the key. So that's a little long. I'm going to cut a little bit shorter. There we are. Now let's see how that goes. There we are. Now what you do is you take your finger again and you start from the center and you push down like so. Because what you don't want to do is create a crease. So you got to be really careful how you finesse it, because if you don't do it right, you'll create a crease. And that's the last thing you want to do. There we go. There we go. Look at that. Yeah, man. Look at that. There's our aluminum, polished aluminum leading edge. Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Now, all right, so we added our aluminum tape, and it's looking pretty good. We got our painted livery, right and left sides. This is basically ready to be mounted. We have it hinged with a rudder, so we can add our rudder once it's added to the tail section of our Emirates 777-9X, 13-foot Emirates 777-9X. This is just ready to be popped into place. I found that it's easier to do your decals and everything and put the livery and finish the tail before you add it to the plane. And the same thing with your elevators and stabilizers. Finish those and then add them to the plane. That way you don't have to do all that work with a cumbersome long fuselage. You know what I'm saying? It's already done. You just add it to the plane. It seems to be a lot easier. So yeah. And there we have it. I mean, that's it. It's done. This is ready to be mounted. So this whole video you saw from the raw styrofoam and carbon fiber and basswood and spackle and then paint, sanding, and hinges, and a little bit of patience and, you know, sticking to it. This is what we come up with. All right, and this is scratch building. No 3D printers needed. Okay, guys, this is DemonDriver. As always, you guys take care, and thank you for watching.